for giving me my big chance back in the Championship, which really kick-started my career again. To Tony Pulis, former Stoke manager, now with Middlesbrough, for getting me away from that tanned ball-bag Phil Brown at Hull, and for doing my forward for this book. Alan Irvine, then Preston North End manager, the best manager I had in all my career, for signing me at Preston and keeping the faith with me when, once again, I couldn't hit a barn door, and for not taking us on holiday. It will become clear later in the book. To my best mate in football, Chris Brown, for letting me live with him while I was splitting up with Claire, and for some bloody good times. To Dr. Len Noakes, then at Cardiff City, for helping and supporting me when I hit my lowest point. What a bloody great guy. To Mark Hudson, Huds, and ML, his wife, for looking after me more than they ever knew they were doing, and for being there at one of my lowest points. To Malky Mackay, for hating me that much that I got paid up early at Cardiff City. Just think what it could have been like if he'd liked me. To all the physios I've had over the years, for strapping me ankles every day, which must have been a ball ache, and rubbing my tree-trunk legs on a regular basis. And also the chefs at the clubs I've been at. As you can imagine, these have all been very important to me over the years. To Adi Pennock for signing me at Forest Green when I was struggling for a club and helping me get another 5 years, plus maybe a bit more, out of my career. To Julie Cooper, it's nice to have one of Britain's best-selling authors write the forward, and what a lovely woman. I'm already looking forward to the next garden party, Julie. To Graham Wesley, some of you might have heard bad things about him, and while I didn't agree with his training methods, he was good enough to allow me to go back to York City and go home to Oliver. Much appreciated, pal. To Jason McGill, York City chairman, and Gary Mills, then York City manager, for taking a chance on a very old semi-crippled has-been and bringing me back to York City. To all the players that I've played with over the years, some have been arseholes, but I've also met some very good people and good friends along the way. Finally, to all the arsehole managers I've had, thanks for being such wankers, because if you all hadn't been, then I don't think there would have been any point writing this book. You all know who you are, and by the end of this book, so will everybody else. To all my mates from Barnsley that I've grown up with and still see regularly to this day, if I've missed anyone out, I'll make sure I don't in the paperback. Finally, thanks to Will Beadles, Paul Dove, Steve Hanrahan and Simon Monk at Reach plc for believing in this project, thinking it might make a decent story and making it all happen. Forward by Tony Pulis. Jon Parkin was an old-fashioned, archetypal centre-forward. He was a throwback to a bygone age, and his ties to the community he grew up in are strong, in that everyone could associate and connect to him, whether they worked down a pit or in a local factory. It didn't matter, because in their eyes, he was just the same as they were. And to his eternal credit, he's never acted any differently throughout his career. There used to be a thread between football and working-class people that's largely gone now. But Jon was a genuine thread. He was part of how the game used to be, and I found that fantastic to be around. As a person, he's a wonderful lad. But it's important to remember he was a very good footballer too, and I think that maybe gets forgotten sometimes. He had great technical ability and was an absolute handful on his day. He could do stuff that really didn't seem possible for someone of the size, shape, or movement that Jon had. He was never going to fulfil his potential because football has never been everything to Jon. Enjoying life and the experiences you have along the way was always more important to him than sacrificing everything for the game. But I found him to be a wonderful lad. He is without doubt one of the funniest players with the driest sense of humour that I've ever had, and it was a pleasure to work with him. He was one of those characters that no matter whether you were winning, drawing, losing or whatever, he could just come in and lift the place. I used to travel in with Richard Cresswell, and he told me a few stories about Jon, and had it been anyone else, I'd have gone berserk. But because it was Big Jon, I just let it wash by. I've got many stories about Jon, but none that I can really share here. One that does spring to mind, however, was a time when I had a bit of a go at him for being overweight. I decided to pull Richard Cresswell in, who was a great professional and would car share to training with Jon. I said to him, "I'm going to put the responsibility down to you. You've got to get into Jon about his weight. It's all right me saying it and him nodding his head, but you've got to get into him." After about 6 weeks, I went in to see Cres and I said, "What are you doing? It's not working."